The night was calm. The sea was lightly restless. The wind was shifting direction, but for someone experienced, that was nothing unusual. He made a brief inspection on deck. It was late. The sky was clear, the stars sharply visible. It was time to sleep. He decided to return to his cabin and rest. That everything had gone according to plan. At first, the wind strengthened slightly. Then it changed direction abruptly. The sail tightened, and the boat tilted unexpectedly to one side. He tried to correct it, but the wave was stronger than he had anticipated. A loud impact followed. For a moment, he thought a whale had struck the hull, the sound of metal grinding against metal. Then a short but heavy jolt. He heard water inside the boat. Within seconds, water began pooling on the deck. This was no minor damage. He grabbed a flashlight and climbed down into the lower compartment. The hull had split open. Water was rushing in, slow but relentless. He tried the radio. Static, then silence. He attempted to send a position signal. No response. He tried again. The same result. The boat was becoming heavier as water accumulated inside. He did not have much time to decide. He prepared the emergency life raft. He took only what he could carry: water, a few cans of food, a knife, a flare. There was no time for more. As the boat continued to tilt, he lowered the raft into the water and climbed in. The boat remained afloat for a few more minutes. He watched silently. Seeing something you have spent years building disappear beneath the surface is heavier than expected. Then the bow turned downward, and it vanished. The world suddenly grew larger. The sea was the same sea, but now there were no boundaries. No deck, no mast. He was inside a small raft. The horizon line looked identical in every direction. In the first hours, he remained rational. He prepared the flare, scanned the sky, looked for a distant ship or a faint light. By morning, someone will pass, he told himself. This route was not empty. Help could come. The night moved on. No lights appeared. When morning came, the sun was harsh. He looked around. There was nothing but water. No shadow, no trail of smoke, no outline of a vessel. And in that moment, something small shifted inside him. Maybe no one knew where he was, and that thought was heavier than the waves. In the first days, he tried to create order. In the mornings, he checked his water supply and scanned the sky. In the evenings, he prepared the flare and searched the horizon. Having something to do kept him steady. Action was better than thinking. Water was the greatest concern. The bottles he had taken were limited. On the first day, he decided to drink less. On the second day, even less. Thirst was a faster enemy than hunger. His lips began to crack. The sun burned his skin. The only shade available was the narrow edge of the raft. On the third day, he thought he saw a shadow on the horizon. He stood up, shouted, waved his arms. He narrowed his eyes and looked again. There was nothing, only the distortion of heat rising from the surface of the water. For the first time, he felt real fear. He tried to fish. With the simple tools he had, he made several attempts, but failed. It required patience and energy. Both were limited. As the day progressed, he began to feel dizzy. He learned to move slowly. He decided not to waste effort on anything unnecessary. The concept of time changed. Days were no longer countable. The question, "What day is it?" lost its meaning. What mattered was waking up the next morning. At night, the sea grew rougher. The sound of waves sometimes felt calming, sometimes threatening. He began speaking to himself, at first out loud, then in whispers. Hearing his own voice reminded him that he still existed. One day, he picked up the flare. He looked at the sky. There was no plane, no ship. He put the flare back down. "I will wait a little longer," he said. But the next day, he did the same thing, and then again the day after that. And one morning, he did not even look at the flare. He was no longer waiting to be rescued. He focused only on collecting water. When rain began to fall, he sat inside the raft and lifted his face toward the sky. It was not a miracle, it was simply a necessity. He filled his hands and stored what he could. For the first time, he felt real relief, because in that moment, he understood help would not come from the sea, but the sea itself was giving him something to survive. Hope had changed shape. He no longer believed someone would come and find him. He only believed he could live one more day. As the days passed, his body seemed to shrink. His arms had grown thinner. His movements were slower. When he stood up, the world spun. When he sat down, rising again felt difficult. But the panic was gone. He had stopped fighting the sea. When a wave came, he balanced himself. When the sun rose, he tried to create shade. Survival was no longer a battle. It had become a habit. One morning, the sea was no different. The horizon was still perfectly flat, but his eyes had adjusted. He studied it more carefully now. That day, far in the distance, he saw a small silhouette. At first, he was not sure. He rubbed his eyes. The shape did not disappear. He stood up. His knees trembled. He waved his arm, though he knew it was meaningless. From that distance, no one could see a single man. He picked up his last flare. He stared at it for a long time. He did not rush. This was his final chance. If he was wrong, nothing would remain. He took a deep breath and fired the flare. A red streak rose into the sky. After a few seconds, it began to fade. He looked at the silhouette. Nothing changed. Just as he was about to sit down, he noticed a shift in its direction. The shape was not getting larger, but its line had altered. This time he did not shout. He simply waited. When the boat drew closer, he barely found the strength to stand. He heard voices, foreign but human. A rope was thrown. He reached out, but missed it. On the second attempt, he held on. Rescue was quiet. He did not scream. He did not cry. When he was lifted from the raft and laid onto the deck, he closed his eyes. For the first time, he felt safe. What followed was blurred. Water was given to him. People tried to speak, but he did not answer, because what had happened was larger than words. When he reached land, people called it a miracle. He did not see it that way. The sea had not killed him, but what kept him alive was not luck. It was that he had stopped waiting. Months later, when he stood on a shore and looked out at the ocean, he no longer felt fear, but the old peace was gone as well. The sea had taught him something. Help does not always come from outside. Sometimes, survival is simply the decision to endure one more day. He had survived, but the silence of the sea remained within him for a long time.